Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn about the engineering artifact sets. Engineering artifact sets are related to the software project construction and as well as design and implementation and deployment major activities you will learn. Whatever tools required to build the software project is going to known as engineering artifact sets. There are four types of artifact sets are there. One, engineering set. Two, design set. Third one is implementation set. Last one, the deployment set. The engineering set, the requirement set. The requirement set is the crucial for remaining three engineering artifact sets because during requirement stage itself, requirement phase itself, all the requirements of the client should be gathered. If anything misplaced or if any requirement is wrongly received, it will cause so many implications in the remaining phases. So, the main requirement set activities are one, collection of requirements from the client side, formulating all the requirements, evaluating the requirements, then keeping the requirements aside and identification of the project vision is very important. So once again remember what is the requirement set? During requirement set you should identify all the requirements. Each and every requirement should gather perfectly. So there should not be any ambiguity or misunderstanding. If you do any small mistake in the requirement set, it will be affected in further phases of the software development. So the remaining three sets, so will face some risk. They will face some risk. So it is crucial one requirement set. All requirements should be gathered effectively. Once the requirements are gathered readily, requirement artifacts are evaluated, assessed and measured through a combination of different activities. So those activities we will see right now. So once again remember requirements are very important because each and every requirement is going to be implemented, is going to be designed in next levels. So first step 1, identification of requirement, then requirements design, requirements implement, then requirements deployment. Okay, remember what is first one? Requirements gathering, requirements design, then implementation, coding. The next one is deployment. Very simply you can remember. Once the requirement artifacts are evaluated, assessed, measured through a combination of analysis of consistency with the release specification of the management set. So, as for the management set, so inside the management they will provide the cost and schedule, etc. Based on that, you should assess it properly. Analysis consistency between vision and the requirement model. So all vision should be carefully observed and requirement model also be identified. Third one, mapping against the design, implementation and deployment sets to evaluate the consistency, completeness of the semantic between information in the different sets. So already I told you the just now it is the bridge between remaining three sets like design, then construction called implementation, then deployment. It is the bridge between remaining three engineering artifacts. So, whatever the requirements you gathered, whatever the requirements identified, so they should be strongly assessed and measured. Once if it is done properly, automatically the remaining artifact sets, including construction, design, and deployment, becomes more easy. Okay. Now, what are the tools required for requirement set? It is the ad hoc document. Once requirements are gathered, they should be specified in a document, like a Word document, or any document is sufficient to capture all the requirements, and the requirements are carefully studied by the software architectures so that they will implement it. Next, design set. Design set. So the design set is nothing but providing or writing or developing a good architecture for the requirements. All the requirements are carefully analyzed. Once requirements are clearly understood, they have to be transformed into the architecture. Here we will use different notations, different tools to make a good architecture. So one of the familiar design set is UML notations. There are different diagrams already you have studied in the third year in OAD paper. In OAD paper, 9 diagrams are there. All 9 diagrams you know very well. Use case, class diagram, object diagram, sequence diagram, like that. So those are useful for making good architecture. Then design model information can be clearly and in many cases automatically translated into subset of implementation and deployment set artifacts. So each and every design set is very useful for the next level of project. The design set is evaluated, assessed and measured through combination of analysis of the internal consistency, quality of the design model. Once the architecture is ready, it should be evaluated whether all requirements strongly considered or not. So provided with sufficient information or not, whether database design is clearly mentioned or not, all algorithms and its internal functions, processes are clearly identified or not to be verified. Analysis of consistency with the requirements model. All requirement models are clearly provided in this or not. So translation into implementation and deployment sets notations are evaluated consistency, completeness and semantic between information in the sets. So finally, subjective review of dimensions of quality. Quality is also very important. If you miss any item or any design part, it leads to finally the project may enter into rework or scrap. Rework or scrap. If you commit any mistake in the design set, so misplacement of operations, misplacement of some tables, misplacement of any logic, any procedure, any conditions. So automatically the project may not be a quality one and it reflect to the client side, and sometimes the project may enter into rework position also. So we should gather all design sets, so the design should be strongly implemented. Once the design is strong, without missing anything, and it is easy to implement by the implementation team. What are the design artifacts? The design artifacts are the diagrams. Clearly remember that design sets are nothing but necessary supporting tools to describe the requirements. What are the tools required to describe the requirements? Algorithms, flow charts, UML diagrams, or any kind of things which require to easily express, easily explain the requirements is known as a design set. Now we'll move to third one, implementation set. It is very simple. Implementation set includes source code. Implementation set includes source code. Writing source code for the requirements is called implementation set. Implementation set artifacts can also translate to subset of the deployment set. So here you have to use some higher level languages or any databases are the artifact sets. Implementation sets are human readable formats that are evaluated, assessed and measured through combination of the following. What are the combination of the following? Analysis of consistency with the good design models. So previously already architecture models are available. They are supporting tools for the implementation set, supporting tools for the implementation. Translation into deployment set notation is evaluated consistency and completeness among artifact sets. So analysis change between current version of the implementation set and previous versions. So in this case you should remember that previously client may work with other system, previous system. So that system has to be replaced with the new system, new version. So this new system should support all the needs of the client. The needs already expressed in the requirements. Requirements are automatically translated into design set. So the design set is the base for the implementation set. It is like a cycle wise you have to consider. Then deployment set. This is the fourth artifact set. Deployment set is nothing but once the project is ready, it is transformed to the client. So during this, testing is to be done. All user scenarios. So user acceptance should be tested. So the database translation, all business trade-offs should be transformed into new software. So quality attributes should be followed. All quality measurements should be followed because the client will expect a good quality product for his business. So it is a combination of testing against user scenarios, testing the partition replication and testing against defined usage scenarios. So analysis changes, subjective review of the dimensions of the quality, each and everything should be identified. User oriented dynamics configuration should be followed. So which includes all user acceptance tests should be done. Once if all the tests are accepted, then the new software is to be deployed to the client site. So are you clear? Deployment is nothing but validation of all user scenarios, all modules, all forms should be verified. So each artifact set use the following notations to capture the relevant artifacts. Here, management set notations. So as I already told you, artifacts are relevant information and tools supported for development of the work, development of the project. So what are the project you want to design? So we may require different kinds of tools. So they are management set notations, requirement notations, implementation and deployment notation. See, management set notations, ad hoc text is nothing but Word document. Management set notations, nothing but ad hoc text, graphics, use case notations capture the plans, process, objectives, acceptance criteria. Then requirement notation, structured text and UML models capture the engineering context and operational context. So, in order to build the requirements model of the project, we need to use the UML software, UML diagrams to explain each and every requirement. For example, if you see the ATM transactions, in that case, you have used one use case model, ATM, and use case is uh, user. So user and ATM transactions. So simply exhibit the model. Then implementation notation, software languages. The software languages are different higher level languages we will use to make the code, and we may use databases also to implement all the design model. Then deployment notations, executable data files, capture solution, mission readable formats. So finally, the deployment notations are executable format, databases, and changeover mechanisms are required. These are the artifact tools required. This is nothing but both software and set of interrelated informations are required to build the client system for his needs. Okay, see, today we have learned engineering artifacts. Engineering artifacts are four. What are four? Requirement sets, design set, implementation set, and deployment set. Requirement set is very simple. All client requirements are analyzed and formulated, and it is very crucial because requirement set artifacts or requirements are crucial for remaining three activities, because if anything misplaced or uh, maybe wrongly received, so it may give a lot of impact on remaining phases like design, implementation, and deployment set. Okay, right.